Pompey Sound. Updates, the latest from Fratton Park, on the hour, every hour. Fueled by Piglet's Pantry. Click pigletspantry.co.uk to get your fill.
In the excitement of the arrival of Adrian SEGACIC, Pompey Sound is reporting that a key aspect of his unveiling as a nailed-on Pompey player has been seriously overlooked. SEGACIC is an attacking player with a nose for goal who can take men on, is pacey and industrious. He can play behind the centre forward or wide on the right, whereas a left-footed player he has the potency to cut inside and shoot, but is no mean crosser of the ball with his right foot. Surely each and every one of those attributes make him a lookalike for Abu Kamara, who many if not most Pompey fans and ditto commentators and journalists alike hoped and imagined was undergoing negotiations for a return to Fratton Park. That SEGACIC has become a contracted Pompey player suggests very strongly that interest in Abu Kamara is either on the wane or has evaporated. In the excitement of the arrival of Adrian SEGACIC, Pompey Sound is reporting that a key aspect of his unveiling as a nailed-on Pompey player has been seriously overlooked. SEGACIC is an attacking player with a nose for goal who can take men on, is pacey and industrious. He can play behind the centre forward or wide on the right where, as a left-footed player, he has the potency to cut inside and shoot, but is no mean crosser of the ball with his right foot. Surely each and every one of those attributes make him a lookalike for Abu Kamara, who many if not most Pompey fans and ditto commentators and journalists alike hoped and imagined was undergoing negotiations for a return to Fratton Park. That SEGACIC has become a contracted Pompey player suggests very strongly that interest in Abu Kamara is either on the wane or has evaporated entirely. Certainly if the two players are compared like for like, the acquisition of SEGACIC reflects better business in that his cost is whatever it took to land his signature by way of a golden hello, coupled to a salary which may be certainly no more than would have been paid Kamara. A forward valued at £4 million plus his salary demands would almost certainly have made him Pompey's top earner. Both are young and capable of developing, but Abu may have suffered a dent in his confidence at Hull, whilst the Australian's confidence, as so often seems the case with Australians, seems to be rock solid. We are not saying the two should be compared, that would be unfair. All we are saying is that the hunt for Abu Kamara has a trail that may be growing cold.
Yes, I must be honest and admit that it didn't occur to me until it was pointed out. And actually none of the people that we've been talking to about the acquisition of SEGACIC had the thought, this is a very good point. And I'll be honest and admit that it never occurred to me or any of the people that we've talked to about the acquisition of SEGACIC, what it meant about the possibility of Abu Kamara coming back to Pompey. Surely that possibility is now dead in the water, because for Abu Kamara, read Adrian SEGACIC, and he's going to be easier on the pocket. He's going to be more industrious for sure than Kamara, although Kamara knew how to come back and defend a little bit, but he didn't have a bite to his tackle, really. And it looks to me as though SEGACIC can look after himself and covers a lot of territory and is quick. In a running race, I dare say Kamara might edge him, but he's quick enough. And just like Kamara, he can go wide on the right. He is left-footed. He can get across him with his right, but he can also strike it from a distance. Steve Bone was telling us on Pompey Sound that he's looked at all the goals available, scored by SEGACIC, and he scores them all over the place, inside the 6-yard box, inside the penalty area, and from outside the penalty area. We like this very much indeed. And as was mentioned in that news report, we can't be 100% sure that Abu hasn't had a bit of a setback at Hull. It was reported in a lot of the newspapers that cover Hull City during the first weeks and months of his tenure there that he wasn't doing for them what he'd done for Pompey. And reading that about yourself, it doesn't do you any good. I'm reasonably sure, can be reasonably sure that social media surrounding Hull City would have carried lots of critical remarks about him, and they may not have been too positive, too constructive. And that's going to affect a young man's confidence. A young man who's living away from home, who's in a strange city, who's having to make lots of new acquaintances and friends, is going to feel vulnerable, is going to feel a bit solitary. And when he starts getting bad press, And there was that incident that we've talked about previously on Pompey's Sound, where he was apparently hauled in front of journalists to kind of explain himself away as to why he'd sent a nice text to his former friend and colleague Paddy Lane at Pompey, and wasn't that inappropriate since he was now a Hull player and therefore supposed to hate and detest Pompey. It doesn't work like that. Life doesn't work like that. Life shouldn't work like that, and it may well upset him a little bit. We know that he's a confidence player. Pompey were able to build his confidence. I suspect, and don't you, that he wouldn't mind a return to Pompey. But now that he's a £4 million rated player, and presumably earning the earnings of a £4 million player, Pompey would have to think twice about that, because we're going to do what we're going to do next season, and there's every reason to hope that we're going to do well next season. We're going to do it on a sensible budget, so that we won't end up where clubs like Sheffield Wednesday are now. Have you seen that Milan Mandaric? Dear old Milan Mandaric. What a lovely man. What a brilliant owner. He is saying that he doesn't want Sheffield Wednesday to go under. He owned them, didn't he, until 2017, was it? That he sold them off, and whoever's got the club between him and the current lot have made a complete pig's ear of it. And he has some sentiment about him, Mandaric. I know he has some sentiment. I've seen him with Pompey fans, and there's a lot of romance about his love of football and football people and football fans. And I suspect, even though he owns some huge, extremely affluent island off the coast of Florida somewhere, that's what I've heard, he hankers. He hankers for the bite and tussle of English football. So he's coming back to the rescue. Now, we won't need rescuing for the foreseeable future, for a considerable time, because the Eisners are here to stay and do the right thing and look after us and gradually turn us into, I'm going to stick my neck out and say, and I've said it before, going to turn us into a Premier League outfit and also a solvent Premier League outfit. So, SEGACIC or Kamara? As usual, looks as though Pompey have made the right call. Football League World have put together a piece in which they try to predict where Pompey's transfer policy is going now that they've signed SEGACIC.
Portsmouth have landed another exciting A-League prospect, signing striker Adrian SEGACIC from Sydney FC. He becomes Pompey's fourth Australian acquisition in the past year, joining countrymen Hayden Matthews, Jacob Farrell and Thomas Waddingham at Fratton Park. SEGACIC's star has risen dramatically in Australia, with his goal-scoring record improving each season. After modest beginnings in 2021-22, the 21-year-old found his stride and finished as the A-League's top scorer last season, with 13 goals in 24 games. The young striker represents John Messinho's first signing of the window, as Pompey looked to improve on last season's 16th-place championship finish. Local fan pundit Miltos Ioannidis is thrilled about the signing. "We love an Aussie, we really do, it's that simple," he said. "I've watched his highlights from the A-League and I'm genuinely excited to see what he can do here." Ioannidis believes Portsmouth's strategy of scouting Australian talent makes perfect sense. The A-League is seriously underrated both as a competition and a market for players. While some might question if he can adapt to English football, I think it's a smart gamble, especially considering how inflated prices are for domestic players. Under Messinho and sporting director Richard Hughes, Portsmouth have increasingly looked to Australia for value in the transfer market. SEGACIC is their seventh Australian signing of this era, with the club showing no signs of changing their successful recruitment approach down under.
Yeah, it's a good piece, that, and Football League World is worth a visit. They often have some nice pieces about Pompey, interesting pieces, which are put together by Miltos, who is a Pompey fan and who is also one of their key pundits. And in that piece there, he's basically saying, let's go back to Australia again. Well, there are limits on the number of overseas players that can be brought in to any one club. It's a complex business, and it's constantly being rearranged. And it seems that Pompey are as good as anybody else at staying ahead of the changes that are made in the rules and regulations governing how many overseas players you can have, whether those overseas players receive some kind of accreditation that excuses them from being overseas players even though they are. It's a complex business. It's why Pompey no doubt have lawyers, not necessarily in the building, but certainly on tap. And we clearly are going to exploit the rules and regulations as we understand them, possibly better than a great many clubs. Therefore, we will exploit the situation better than a great many clubs. Are we, like Miltos, happy about the number of overseas players coming in? As long as there's 3 points on the board every Saturday at home and an average of 1 away, which is what we think we're aiming for next season. Obviously, we can't win every home game, and we might lose some away games. We might also win the odd away game. But that's the kind of ballpark that we're looking for next season. And as long as that happens, it doesn't matter if they're from Timbuktu or planet Mars. Frankly, we will, though, be keeping an eye out for English players, British players, UK players who are either free and want to exploit the fact that they're free, so they stay free. They don't sign another contract. Look at Regan Poole. He was begged by Lincoln to sign another contract, but he knew what he was doing. He wanted to take a step up. So he declined the offer of another contract, happy though he was at Lincoln, and they loved him at Lincoln, but he knew what he was doing. He was managing the system. And players come on the market from time to time, manage because they want to manage the system. What a steal Matt Ritchie was. And we're looking at the boy Swift, aren't we, who is going to be available fairly soon on a free transfer. We know there's no such thing as a free transfer. Almost certainly the player is given some kind of a financial reward, a package, once they agree to sign, which is probably less than we would have paid for them if they were in the middle of a contract. So it suits them and it suits us, and that's the way it's working with these frees. With loans, we don't pay anything out in transfer, but we do pay a large part of what is a large salary if that player is coming to us from a Premier League club. So we are playing all of the various markets with the highest degree of shrewdness. I mean, if it was a casino, we'd get thrown out for reading the cards, possibly with our hands broken. Did you see that film Casino? Anyway, it doesn't matter. What I'm saying is Pompey are playing their cards really, really well. Does it mean that another Australian is going to be coming here? Perhaps more than one before the season starts. Quite possibly. It is a rich vein for talent. And word is getting round amongst football agents and players themselves in Australia that Pompey know how to do it. They know how to look after a guy down on the south coast of POM territory. So, onwards and upwards. Nice piece. Totally recommend it. Football League World, well worth a visit. Thanks for that piece.
Who is Massimo Cellino? Born the 28th of July 1956, he's an Italian entrepreneur and football club owner. Through his family trust Eleonora Sport Limited, he was the owner of Italian club Brescia Calcio and is the former owner of Italian club Cagliari and English club Leeds United.
You might vaguely remember him, but why are we telling you this?
During his years as owner of Cagliari, Cellino was instrumental in the building of their sports centre in Assemini, near Cagliari, named after his father, Ercole. Diego Lopez was sacked by Cellino as Cagliari manager on the 6th of April 2014, this being the 36th manager change he went through in the 22 years of his tenure as owner. Cellino earned the nickname Il Mangia Allenatori, the manager eater.
OK, bit of a dodgepot, ducker and diver, but hey, he's back in Italy now, isn't he? So why are we telling you this?
At Leeds, on the 1st of December 2014, Cellino was disqualified by the Football League and asked to resign from the club. The Football League took the decision after obtaining documents from an Italian court, where he was found guilty of tax evasion. On the 19th of January 2015, Cellino's appeal against the Football League's disqualification was rejected, with the appeal committee ruling that his ban would stand.
I'm guessing you're still none the wiser, but hang in there. They're going to get to the point in a second.
After leaving Leeds, Cellino returned to Italy and purchased Serie B side Brescia. In June 2025, under President Cellino, Brescia, were relegated from the 2024-25 Serie B after a 4-point deduction, having failed to cover a €3 million debt for unpaid wages and subsequently declared bankruptcy.
And so players' contracts at Brescia might be invalid?
Correct.
So highly rated Patrick Neumann, who's got 3 years left to run on his contract, which might now be invalid, could join another club kind of on a free?
Correct again.
So if he comes here, and he is quite a prospect, we've got the dodge pot to thank.
Correct a third time.
Right. Well, there's a certain kind of irony, isn't there? Or a karma, if you like, in Pompey perhaps benefiting from the ducking and diving and dubious entrepreneurship of some guy, because we've had our fair share of them owning our club, and we didn't benefit from any of those dodge pots. And now it looks as though the people of Brescia are undergoing what Pompey might have undergone as a result of some of the dodge pots who were hand in till at Pompey. So we got a feel for those fans. It's a historic club at Brescia. I believe that Pep Guardiola played for them for a period of time, and also Roberto Baggio, if you go back that far. So they're a club with history, like Pompey. Pompey got themselves saved, Brescia haven't. But we might benefit from that because we might be in the hunt for this guy Patrick Neumann, who is said to be a real hot prospect. Remains the youngest. No, I think he's just been overtaken. I was going to say remains the youngest player ever to play in Serie B in Italy. Sorry, they say ba, so I'm sometimes tempted to sound authentic. Serie B in Italy. So he's a clear prospect, and he's said to have, amongst other things, unusually for a 19-year-old, great leadership skills. So he's a somebody, and we might get him for whatever it costs us to pay him to come to Pompey instead of a colossal transfer fee. So that's why we needed to find out about the dodge pot. Been doing a bit more digging into this Cellino character, purely out of curiosity, and it does look as though he could be the biggest basket case ever to own a football club. He seems highly sentimental, that's why he named the ground after his father, nothing wrong with that. He's deeply superstitious about the number 17, and he had all the number 17 seats in Elland Road replaced with 16B, and he banned the shirt number 17 from Elland Road. He's got 2 criminal convictions, one for deceiving the Italian Ministry of Agriculture out of £7.5 million, and for false accounting at Cagliari in 2001. Just 2 years ago, a warrant was issued for his arrest, describing him as a man of marked criminal tendencies, capable of using every kind of deception to achieve his ends. He was held in custody for 2 weeks in connection with an investigation that still hasn't been resolved. His other hobby, besides firing managers, is playing guitar. And at one Leeds United social evening, he got up on stage with a cover band, asked to borrow the lead guitar, and asked if they could play Hey Joe by Jimi Hendrix. And this is what it sounds like. To be fair, that's not bad. Massimo Cellino, the man who may deliver us Patrick Neumann free of charge.